Greetings gastronauts, this is KeefCooks, I'm Keef, and today I'm continuing the 5 meals strand, or 5 days 5 meals, and this time I've got 1 chicken and 5 days and 5 meals. So that'll be fun, won't it? Actually, it's 5.5 days because the first thing I'm going to do is break down the chicken into its component parts and then start making some stock, which will be ready tomorrow morning because I'm doing it in the slow cooker overnight. Right, here's my chicken. It's a bit of a whopper. It weighs just over 2 kilos and it cost £3.49 from Aldi, which is ridiculously cheap. Obviously not free range. So first thing to do, remove a leg. There we go, 2 legs and a legless chicken carcass. Now we take off the breast, just cut down the side of the sternum, and then we cut the wing off. Now with the wings I always remove the wing tip because there's nothing on it, and that goes in the stock pot. And then divide the wing into 2 bits, the flat and the drumette. That's what they're actually called. So there's my 4 chicken wing pieces and the carcass that goes in the stock pot. Now one of the breasts I want to be skinless, so I'll just take the skin off that. And that goes in the stock pot as well. Now I want the thighs, so I'll just chop the legs in half. And the bone and the skin from the leg can both go in the stock as well. Okay, now I'll add some veggies to the stock. So I've got a carrot, I'll just cut that into big old chunks. And then an onion, quarter that, 5 quarters, leave the skin on. And I got a half leek that I found lurking in the bottom of the fridge, or you could use a whole one if you want. And some filthy celery, I'll just give that a wash. Now I'm doing it in my slow cooker, so I'll just add some water. That's not enough, I need to top it up. I've got some herbs. I've got a teaspoon of parsley, half teaspoon of thyme, half teaspoon of sage, and a teaspoon of whole black peppercorns. And 2 or 3 bay leaves. Now in the slow cooker, or the crock pot, when I've topped it up with water, I'll put the lid on and put it on high heat and just leave it overnight, forget about it. If you can't do it overnight, you need to give it at least 6 hours, possibly 8. Alternatively, in a saucepan or a big pot, bring it to the boil, turn it down to a simmer, put a lid on and leave it for 3 or 4 hours. Or in a pressure cooker, bring it up to pressure and give it half an hour. So there we go, we'll leave that to bubble away all night long and finish it off in the morning. Cock-a-doodle-doo. So here's the stuff that's been simmering away all night, and now I'm just going to take out the big bits and put them in a colander and then strain off the liquid. I do it like this so I don't splash liquid all over the place. Now we need to filter the liquid again because it will have sediment of herbs and pepper and stuff in it. So I've got a sieve with a piece of muslin cloth, cheesecloth. When you've got all your liquid in your pot, put it on high heat and bring it to the boil and let it boil furiously to reduce by about half, which will take maybe 20 odd minutes. Right, we're done. So I'm going to turn the heat off and add a teaspoon of salt and have a little taste. Now I'm going to transfer this to a bowl and let it cool down to room temperature. Then I'll put it in the fridge for a few hours because there's quite a lot of fat in that, and the fat, as it chills, will float to the top. That makes it easier to get rid of. Okay, officially day 1, and I'm going to make very simple chicken curry. It's just a generic curry flavoured thing, not a korma or a do piazza or whatever. So quite quick and easy, let's do it. Right, I've got some oil in a pan on medium heat, and I'm going to throw my onion bits in and cook them for about 5 minutes till they're softened but not browned. Now I've got 2 cloves of garlic crushed, and I'll put those in and cook those for a minute or 2. Now I'm going to add a teaspoon of ground cumin, teaspoon of ground ginger and 2 tablespoons of mild curry powder, and stir those all together. Then add half a can of tomatoes. That's a 400 gram can, about 14 ounces, so just about half that. Mixy mixy and cookie for 5 minutes. Now we need to sort out some chicken. Here's my deconstructed chicken from yesterday, and I want the thigh meat. That looks like one piece, and this looks very much like the other piece. Chicken thigh meat is generally recommended for curries because it's more tasty than the breast. Now I want to dice these quite small, so pop the chicken in, stir it around and let it cook for about 5 minutes. Now I've got a cup of the stock from this morning, defatted, and stir that in, turn the heat down low and just let it cook for about 10-15 minutes. I almost forgot, chuck in about a tablespoon of chopped fresh coriander, cilantro. While that's cooking we'll do the rice. So I've got a cupful of basmati rice and I'm just going to rinse it under cold water to get the starch off. Whack it in the pan and add about 1 3/4 cups of cold water and bring that to the boil, put a lid on and simmer it for 10 minutes. And if you like your rice yellow, you can add a teaspoon of turmeric and slap a lid on it. When the rice is cooked, turn the heat off, but keep the lid on for about 10 minutes. Now the curry's pretty much done. I'm just going to add some yoghurt, which turns out to be creme fraiche, but you know, it'll do. It's got the same kind of sharpness. Turn off the heat and stir that in. Shut up. Alright, all done. So let's pop it on a plate. I like to put my rice into a ring so it forms a kind of circular tower, but you don't have to do that, obviously. And then some curry, and then sprinkle on a bit more of the chopped coriander and eat it. Okay, here we go. That hits the spot. Right, it's day 2 and I'm going to make buffalo wings with blue cheese dressing and celery sticks. And actually I'm a total liar. It's day 3. I tried to make buffalo wings yesterday. Well, actually I did make buffalo wings yesterday and they were disgusting. I can't taste any chicken. That is vile. So, buffalo wings, the sequel. So I've got a pot about 1/3 full of sunflower oil, and I'm heating that to 190 degrees Celsius. And then I've got a few chicken wings. So I wasted the ones from this chicken, which had been supplemented with 8 other bits of chicken wing that I've been saving in the freezer. So I had to buy these. So a bit of a cheat, but anyway. Oil's up to temperature, so I'll just carefully lower in some chicken. I'm only doing 4 in this first batch for the video, and I'll do the rest this evening when Mrs. KeefCooks gets home. If your chicken wings have been frozen and they've thawed out and they're wet, you really need to pat them dry with kitchen paper, otherwise they'll splutter and splatter and be a bit dangerous. I'm following recipes from a couple of videos from chefs who come from Buffalo, so this is how they do it. They don't dredge it in anything, they don't season it, they don't mess about at all. It's really simple. For the blue cheese dip, I've got a good dollop of mayonnaise and the same quantity of soured cream. I'm just stir those together, and then some crumbled blue cheese. This is English Blue Stilton, the best blue cheese in the world, I think. But you can use whatever you want, whatever you've got. Okay, wings are done. So take them out of the oil and drain them. Now for your buffalo sauce, you want a saucepan, some hot sauce. This is Frank's Red Hot, as much or as little as you like, and then a squirt of white vinegar and a big lump of butter, and just melt them all together basically, and that's it. And then add your buffalo wings to the pan and toss them in the sauce, get them nicely coated, and that's it, done. Right, kind of hard to get everything in shot, but here's my buffalo wings, and I've already had one, and those are fab. Right, day 3. It's pretty gloomy and rainy and so what I'm making today is going to be just perfect. Chicken soup, chicken and vegetable soup, chicken and leek soup, you know, a nice veggie soup with chicken in it. So I'm going to need a leek for my chicken and leek soup, and I know where I can get one. My goodness, look at the size of that. Now I've got my veggies for the soup base, my mirepoix. I've got onion, carrot and celery chopped quite small, and now I'm melting some butter in this pot. Pop the veggies in, give them a good stir and get them all coated. Put a lid on it, and now I'm going to deal with that leek. So obviously it needs a good wash, and then slice it. I slice the white half of the leek and put that in with the veggies, and then I slice the green end and we put that in towards the end of cooking. Now I've got a bit of chicken breast. I'm just going to dice it and then pop it in with the veggies and stir it well, and basically we just want to cook it so the outside of the chicken goes opaque, sort of whitish. Just adding some of the chicken stock, and we'll save some of it for another dish that's coming up later in the week. I'm adding half a teaspoon of white pepper and some thyme, and then we pop the lid on and let that simmer for about 15 minutes. Now I'm adding the green bits of leek and let that cook for like 5 to 10 minutes till they're tender. Now turn the heat off and add a bit of cream, just stir that in, and then give it a taste to make sure it's wonderful. And that actually needs a pinch of salt. Right, it's day 4, the sun is shining, yay! And I'm going to do buttermilk fried chicken. So it's a bit like KFC. I've got a couple of chicken drumsticks and some chicken breast, which I'll do in slices like chicken tenders. We need to marinate the chicken, so we start off with some buttermilk, add half a teaspoon of salt, quarter teaspoon each of garlic powder, smoked paprika and cayenne pepper. So mix those all together and then add the bits of chicken and make sure they're coated all over. Here's chicken breast for the chicken tenders, still with the skin on, because you know I think fried chicken should have the skin on. And then pop those in the marinade, and you need to leave that preferably overnight, but minimum like 4 hours. Now I'm just about to bread the chicken, so I've got some self-raising flour, a bit of turmeric, some ground black pepper, a pinch of salt and a little bit of cayenne pepper, and just mix those together. Now grab a piece of chicken and pop it in the flour mixture and kind of press it on to make sure it sticks and make sure it's coated all over. Now I'm going to pop those in the fridge for about half an hour because it makes the coating kind of firm up and stick better. Now I've got some oil heated to 190 degrees Celsius, and I'll pop my lumps of chicken in carefully. I'll put the drumsticks in first because they'll take longest, maybe 15 minutes, and I'll put the chicken tenders in about halfway through that time. Okay, I messed that up a bit. The oil got far too hot, so the drumsticks are what you might call burnt. But the internal temperature is fine. They've reached 75 degrees Celsius, which is safe to eat. And now it's taste test time with Mrs. KeefCooks.
Oh yeah.
Hi.
Have they got their winter coats on, Keefy?
Oh sure.
It's alright. I actually heard him. I was in the other room and I heard him explaining about what the temperature was too high to start with.
Yeah.
Can I have some of that ketchup as well?
Oh sorry, yeah. That was just there for the food too. Okay. Shit.
It's the weekend.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, this is nice.
Oh, thank you. What about the chicken?
I was expecting chicken to be a bit boring, really. Who knows how to cook stuff so it's tender? Really. I really like the coating on this.
Yep.
So we had buffalo chicken earlier in the week.
Buffalo wings.
Buffalo wings, yeah. Didn't like that. So when he said, "Oh, we're gonna have buttermilk soaked chicken for dinner," I thought, What? Oh no! I thought he was going to do it again to get it right this time. So no, we've had that twice already. We had something else, and I can tell you, well done, Keith. This is delicious.
Okay.
So what's in it?
Chicken.
No, what's in the spices?
Oh, cayenne pepper, paprika, and something else.
Oh.
Salt. Right, anyway, okay, that's that one.
Yeah.
Another one tomorrow, oh my god.
Oh, try this. This is really nice. In fact, we can go and sit and watch TV with this on our
But
laps, can't we?
don't make your oil too hot. Okay, finally, it's day 5. And I'm beginning to loathe the sight and taste of chicken, as I thought I might. But anyway, I won't loathe this because it's one of my absolute favourite things. I'm going to make chicken and mushroom pie.
First job, make pastry. So I've got 100ml of water in a saucepan, and you need to make that hot. And then I've got 125 grams of fat, which is half and half butter and lard. You could use all lard or all butter, whatever you like. And you pop that into the water, and you want it to melt, but you don't really want the water to boil. Now I want 250 grams of plain all-purpose flour and a pinch of salt, and mix those together. When the fat's melted, take it off the heat and pour half of it into the flour and stir that in, and then add the other half. So this is hot water pastry, which a lot of people are scared of. I don't know why. It's actually the easiest pastry in the world to make, and I use it almost all the time for pies. It's great. So we've got a nice ball of dough. Now you want to cover that and stick it in the fridge for half an hour to rest. Now for filling, I've got some oil and butter on medium-low heat, and I've got medium onion chopped into bits, and we just throw those into the pan and let them cook for about 5 minutes till they're soft but not brown. Got some shrooms. These are just chestnut mushrooms. You could use button mushrooms. You don't want to use anything particularly expensive and exotic. So these have had a little rinse to get the muck off, and now we just chop them into bits. Add the mushrooms to the pan, and we want those to cook for a bit. Get them maybe a bit brown if you can, and get most of the moisture out of them. Now here's the last of the chicken. So this is a whole chicken breast, and you want to cut it into quite small dice. You don't want big chunks in a pie because they make it lumpy. And we pop that into the pan and let that cook for a few minutes to get browned. That's looking good, so I'm going to put the last dregs of the chicken stock in there, and also there's a bit of leftover chicken leek soup from the other day, so we'll pop that in as well. Let that cook for about 10 minutes and then we'll check it for seasoning. Right, little pinch of salt. I know I always say that, but it needs it. And then we turn it off the heat and add a sploosh of cream. And we need that to cool down to more or less room temperature, and then we can assemble the pie. Okay, time to put it all together. So I've got the oven preheating to 180 degrees Celsius because it's a fan oven, convection oven, or 200 for a conventional one. That's gas 7. I've also got a loose bottomed pie dish, and I've buttered it because I don't trust non-stick goods. Now sprinkle a bit of flour on your worktop and on your rolling pin, and then just take a bit less than half the pastry to make the lid with. Now roll that out into a circle, quite thin, about 3 or 4 millimeters or 1/4 of an inch-ish, and obviously about the same size as the tin. Right, that should just about do it, so put the tin on it and cut off any excess pastry. Set the lid aside and then roll out the remaining pastry for the base. Now roll the pastry around your rolling pin and then grab the tin and place the rolling pin on top and unroll the pastry into the tin. Now grab yourself a bit of spare pastry and use that to push the pastry base into the bottom edge of the tin, and that way you won't break it with your fingernails or anything. Now if you've got any gaps in your rim, just cut off some of the excess and use that to patch it up. Now spread all the filling into the pie base and moisten the edge with water. Now pop the lid on and press it down with your thumbs all the way around. Trim off any excess pastry and sort of lift up the edge and crimp it a bit. Stab it with a fork to let steam escape as it cooks, and then paint it with beaten egg. And that needs to go in the oven for 35 to 40 minutes, and you might want to turn it around halfway through so it gets browned evenly.
And now it's taste test time with KeefCooks.
Mister. Bye.
Bye. Chicken and mushroom pie, yeah?
Bye, glorious. Bye. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the thing with pie.
It's
It's
makes you go, oh yeah. Real pie, proper pie.
It's one of those things, instead of doing a taste test, we're actually having our dinner. So it's kind of difficult to remember you guys. Keefy.
It's fab. I give that a fab out of 10.
That's alright then.
Alright.
Do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.